It's November 5th, 2024, along Mombasa Road. Kevin Kiplagat aka Elvis Chepkosa was out here flexing on TikTok, feeling like the streets belonged to him. Mans was literally floating. Life was good. Actually not just good, life was sweet. He was loaded with cash like crazy. At only 31 years old, he had just wrapped up building his palace. Not some abati structure, no, a proper mansion, fully paid, no bank, no mortgage, just straight cash. The house stood there like a bold statement. This was no ordinary village boy anymore. From an unknown dropout kid from the small town of Chepkosa in Chepalungu to a satisfied young king, his name was flying high in almost every Kalenjin song. Artists were bigging him up for sponsoring them. But as he drove off to Bomet that same day, with his best friend and right-hand man Muge, none of them had the slightest clue that this will be the last time anyone will ever see them alive. Because as their Prado TX approached Larry in Kiambu, unknown men who had been silently tailing them for a while finally made their move. Bullets started flying, forcing them to stop immediately. The two were kidnapped on the spot, and up to this day, nobody knows where they disappeared to. They have zero trace. But before we even get there, let's roll it back kidogo, because how did we even reach this point? Elvis Chepkosa's story starts humbly. He was born and raised in Chepkosa, Chepalungu. He was used to village life from day one. Like any other kid, he started schooling, but when he reached Form 2, he decided enough was enough. School just wasn't making sense anymore. Hizo tanakali za sauti na mavoils zilimchosha. So, he quit. After dropping out, he joined the normal village routine. Life was all about stealing his father's shamba and looking after cows. But despite all this, his pockets were still dry. He wanted more. So, like any other young man, trying to escape the village struggle, he started looking for a job. With no papers, the options were limited. Luckily, he landed something small as an M-Pesa agent in Sigor town. But as fate will have it, 2014 was about to change his life forever. On one ordinary afternoon, he crossed paths with his destiny connector. Now enter Hilary Matindwet, whom the streets simply knew as David Mtai. He was a certified criminal with experience. David had already served time at Naivasha Maximum Prison for impersonation. On this particular day, David was there to withdraw some serious cash from one of his successful hits. The two struck a friendship quickly. As days passed, Elvis couldn't help but notice how frequently David would withdraw huge chunks of money. Curiosity couldn't hold him anymore. One day, he boldly told him, "Devi Bana, show me your ways." That one request birthed what would later become one of Kenya's most feared scam operations. David agreed and introduced Elvis to the dark arts of vision. Now, for those who might be wondering what vision is, it is a fraud technique where scammers call random people, pretending to be Safaricom, Airtel, or even bank officials. They sweet talk you, pretending they are fixing your account, but their real aim is to fish out your personal information and pins. Once they have that, accessing your accounts becomes a child's play. Back then, most Kenyans were only starting to understand mobile money. Very few people knew how easy it was to be tricked. With this fresh knowledge, Elvis dived into the game. Together with David, they hit the ground running, and within no time, victims started realizing that their money was mysteriously disappearing. Complaints flooded police stations and social media, but as the others were crying, Elvis was eating good. Life flipped completely. Mans was now balling. The first thing he did after making his first serious money was build a house back home. And not just a house, a serious structure that announced to the village that this was not your ordinary hustler anymore. Imagine at the time, he was just 22. But that was just the beginning. Like a man with a plan, he ticked the two key boxes every upcoming baller in Ocha needed to secure serious clout. First, he bought a motorcycle. Then, he upgraded his wardrobe with boutique designer outfits. Instantly, he became a magnet. It didn't take long before the parties kicked in. He started sponsoring events, buying drinks for the homies, enrolling with local celebrities like Kenyan International. His presence in any function automatically meant free drinks for everyone. He became that guy who everyone wanted in their events. With time, the game became too sweet to enjoy alone, so he expanded. The cake was big enough for everyone to have a piece. Elvis officially opened what many called his own SIMSWAP school right at his crib. And here is where his best friend and loyal soldier, Dominic Kipngeno, famously known as Hilarious Muge, came in. While Elvis loved to operate in the shadows, Muge couldn't resist the temptation of showing off their wealth. Every chance he got, he was posting, partying, flexing cars and popping bottles. Life ilikuwa tamu. They were drinking the finest wines, wearing the cleanest designers, and driving the best German machines. As the money and fame grew, Elvis started warming up to something bigger, and that is politics. Inspired by his mentor David, who had also tried to enter politics and become an MCA, Elvis also wanted a piece of the political pie. But this, right here, will be their biggest undoing. Politics brings visibility, and visibility brings enemies. Opponents started whispering. People started digging. The DCI finally took interest. Their lavish lifestyles had raised enough eyebrows. Rumors turned into investigations. On December 2022 was their turning point. They made a mistake that finally exposed them. They siphoned 941,000 Kenyan shillings from an MP who had traveled out of the country. That one hit blew their entire cover wide open. Once the authorities dug deeper, they discovered that the duo were actually behind countless SIMSWAP scams happening across the country. Now, for the curious ones, SIMSWAP fraud works like this. Scammers somehow convince mobile service providers to give them a new SIM card linked to your phone number. Once that happens, your entire life is in their hands. They receive your calls, messages, bank OTPs, M-Pesa alerts, and within minutes, your accounts are wiped clean. After being exposed, the two were arrested. But Kenya being Kenya, they allegedly greased some hands and secured their release. They moved operations to Nairobi, but by then, the heat was officially on. Shortly after, they were rearrested, this time for robbery with violence. But as usual, they found their way back to freedom. What they didn't realize was that these constant arrests and releases only painted a bigger target on their backs. Then came the final blow. A few months later, they were abducted.
Two men, Kevin Kiplangat alias Elvis and Dominic Kipngeno alias Muge were abducted by armed men believed to be police officers while driving along Maimahiu Road on the 7th of December 2024. Families say efforts to trace the missing persons have proved futile and their whereabouts remain unknown for the last 5 days.
Up until today, no one really knows where they disappeared to. No communication, no bodies, complete silence. Their parents knew very well that their sons had messed up, but deep inside, they still hope for answers that may never come.
Hatujui nani alimpeleka. Hata ndio huyu mama wetu. Hajui hata vile ataongea. Juu tunasikia uchungu sana. Kupoteza mtu.
And that right there is how the once untouchable Mulot gang leader, Elvis Chepkosa, vanished into thin air after playing dangerous games with millions of stolen shillings. A village boy who rose too fast, burned too bright, and got swallowed by the same underworld that made him rich. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.